The palace rose from the desert like a mirage carved from gold, its domes catching the last blush of sunset as if the sky itself had bent down to kiss them. Lanterns flickered along the marble pathways, and fountains whispered secrets into the warm evening air. She stood at the grand balcony in a gown the color of moonlight, her heart beating not with fear, but with the strange thrill of destiny fulfilled among the three brothers, all striking in their own way. She had chosen the one no one truly understood. The eldest carried the confidence of a warrior, his sharp jaw and commanding presence admired across kingdoms. The youngest possessed a smile so bright it seemed to promise endless laughter and light. But it was the middle brother, the Sheikh who never removed his mask, who had captured her attention. His mask was not grotesque nor ornate. It was simple, crafted from matte silver, covering the upper half of his face. It concealed his eyes, the very windows to a soul she had longed to see. Whispers followed him wherever he walked. Some claimed he had been scarred in battle. Others insisted he hid a curse placed upon him at birth. There were even stories that he was unbearably handsome and wished to avoid vanity. No one knew the truth. When he had stood before her and asked for her hand, he did not offer grand speeches like his brothers. He did not boast of wealth or power. Instead, his voice, low, steady, and almost haunting, had said, "Choose me only if you are willing to trust what you cannot see." And she had, now on their honeymoon, far from the court and the murmuring crowds, they were alone in a secluded seaside villa that belonged only to them. The ocean stretched endlessly before their terrace, waves crashing in a rhythm that felt like the pulse of something ancient and eternal. The night air carried the scent of salt and jasmine. Candles burned softly around the room, casting dancing shadows against silk-draped walls. She watched him as he stood near the open window, the moonlight framing his tall silhouette. Even in silence, he possessed a gravity that pulled her closer. She had spent weeks married to him, learning the curve of his laugh, the warmth of his hands, the gentleness beneath his composed exterior. Yet the mask remained. He turned toward her slowly, as if sensing her thoughts. "You have been patient," he said quietly. Her fingers tightened slightly around the fabric of her gown. "I chose you," she replied, stepping closer. "Not your face, not the stories. You." The wind brushed through the room, lifting the edge of the sheer curtains. For a moment, time seemed to pause between them. He reached up, his fingers resting at the edge of the silver mask. She had imagined this moment countless times. Would there be scars? Would there be something terrifying? Or something breathtaking? "This is the last chance," he murmured. "Once you see me, you cannot unsee me." "I don't want to," she whispered, slowly, almost painfully slowly. He removed it. The mask slipped away, catching the candlelight as it fell into his hand. She froze, her breath vanished, suspended somewhere between her heart and her lips. It was not horror that held her still, nor disappointment. It was the sheer, overwhelming shock of what she saw across his face. Faint but undeniable, traced a map of delicate scars. They were not disfiguring. They were stories etched into skin. A jagged line crossed his brow. A thinner one curved along his cheekbone. But his eyes, those hidden eyes, were a deep, luminous amber, burning with vulnerability she had never witnessed before. He did not look monstrous, he looked human. More than that, he looked brave. The scars told of battles fought not for pride, but for protection. She remembered the tales of raids on distant villages years ago, the mysterious warrior who had saved countless lives before vanishing. No one had ever connected those stories to the quiet Sheikh who wore a mask. "You were protecting them," she breathed, her voice trembling not from fear, but from realization. His jaw tightened slightly. A leader must sometimes become a shield, but people prefer unbroken faces on their rulers. So I gave them one. Tears blurred her vision, though she hadn't realized they had formed. All this time, he had hidden not because he was ashamed, but because the world was. She stepped forward, closing the distance between them. Her hand lifted, hovering just above the faint scar on his cheek. "You thought I would recoil. I thought you might," he admitted softly. Instead, she traced the line gently, reverently, as though it were a priceless artifact. "These are not marks of shame," she said. "They are proof that you stood between danger and those who could not stand for themselves." His composure faltered for the first time since she had known him. In his uncovered gaze, she saw something fragile and fierce at once. A man who had borne judgment in silence, who had worn metal to spare others discomfort. The ocean roared beyond the terrace, but inside the room, everything felt hushed and sacred. "I froze," she confessed, offering a small, breathless smile. "Not because I was afraid, but because I realized how blind I had been. I thought I was choosing mystery. I didn't know I was choosing courage." The mask lay forgotten on the marble floor and he exhaled, a sound heavy with years of restraint finally loosening. Slowly, he reached for her hand, pressing it against his cheek as if testing whether she would pull away. She didn't. Instead, she rose on her toes and pressed a gentle kiss to the scar that had once defined his fear of rejection. "I in that quiet villa by the sea, beneath the silver glow of the moon, the truth no longer needed hiding." The mask had not concealed a monster or a miracle. It had concealed a man who believed the world would rather admire perfection than understand sacrifice. And as she held his face in her hands, she knew she had not chosen the most handsome brother. She had chosen the strongest one.